How are you doing?
Excuse me, can you please say slowly?
Of course. I'm just asking, how are you doing?
Okay. I'm a little bit nervous.
No, you don't need to be
Um,
nervous at all. It's fine. We are here friends
okay,
together.
I'm now listening, uh, uh, listening, your lection. Excuse me, my English very bad, and I
Okay.
can, make some mistakes in,
No problem.
sentences.
No problem. No problem. Thank you for for talking to us, for introducing yourself. That's much appreciated. And anyway, we are all here to learn, to discuss, and to collaborate together. Um, it's a safe zone. We are in a safe zone, so whatever happens or whatever being said, it's okay for everyone. Just to want to have a nice moment where we're gonna talk about sustainable entrepreneurship. So I'm looking forward to hear from you, your stories, your questions, your examples, and so on. But please feel free so that I have an idea on uh, what's the community we're having together today. Feel free just to drop a message and say who are you um, and where are you? Noor, so Noor Brayed from MSB. Welcome, Noor.
Thank you.
All right, so actually during this training session, we're going to talk about sustainable entrepreneurship. We wanted to be very interactive, as interactive as possible. So please feel free to interrupt me anytime. Please use the chat box to discuss, to share your thoughts, your questions, anything. I very much appreciate when the camera is open because also that gives me energy. It helps me interacting. It helps me seeing your reactions, whether you're happy or unhappy or flowing or curious, etc., etc. And that actually reinforces the engagement and gives a sense of get together that is very much appreciated. Not mandatory though, and I understand that some people would, for whatever reason, could be technical or not, that the camera is off, but it's but very, very, very much appreciated when it's on. Um, what else can we say? Yeah, so we want to make it very interactive, and we want to learn together, learn from everyone's experiences. I'm sure here there is an amazing knowledge that is shared between us. Everyone has its own experience with respect to entrepreneurship, with respect also to sustainability, to social business, and so on. So, of course, we're gonna work on a particular content, and we're gonna try to have examples. But it's also very much appreciated when you share your own stories, your own examples, and your own questions, because that's basically how we learn. Um, so I'll start by introducing myself. And then it will be difficult to have a 1 minute intro for everyone. That will take us the whole session time. But I'll be happy actually to listen from you who you are, but also what are you expecting from the session. That will help us actually better frame it. So let me start by introducing myself. So my name is Nouman Lahimer. I'm from Tunisia. Not as first said, I'm not from Italy. In
Yeah.
Tunisia. Great to connect with us. And so I'm PhD in economics from Université Paris Dauphine in France since 2009. And I joined MSB in 2011, teaching courses like microeconomics, macroeconomics, international business, and so on. And very quickly, I actually started working on entrepreneurship boot camps. We created an entrepreneurship bootcamp at the university since 2012. It's called Entrepreneurs of the Future, where we work on specific social themes, and we actually make our students work on diverse teams to provide innovative startups to solve these social problems. Just to give you an example, the last edition of we call it Entrepreneurs of the Future. The last edition of Entrepreneurs of the Future was about um, how to find startups that can help people living in conflict zones. So, and it's been amazing how students can be creative and innovative to find innovative solutions to that. So when you start doing entrepreneurship, you enjoy that so much that you start asking yourself, why not me? Why I don't launch my own business? Especially when you talk to students and to tell them, entrepreneurship is execution. It's doing. It's getting into the market. So that incentivized me a lot to launch my own business that I launched in 2016. It's a startup named eVay, and we develop tech solutions for professional events. When we say professional events, we start from simple webinars and masterclasses until biggest events like exhibitions, job fairs, and so on. And we develop all the technology, all the digital technology that help doing that. And we did that before COVID. So COVID was a lucky moment for us, I guess, as it opened the market so much. Actually, we were struggling before, and we've been able to raise funds. Actually, during COVID, we've been in touch with investors during that period, and we learned through the way. But I mean, I've been happy when COVID arrived in technological terms, but of course not in a social and human and health way of it. But also after COVID, what happened is that there is drop down in the market of digital events, which also pushed to a sort of crisis management. After that, managing the cyclical aspect of the events and so on. And now the company is pretty stable, and we also at the same time raising funds for growth to scale up. So yeah, this is it about me. I'm very much interested about social and sustainable entrepreneurship. Very much interested about also digital platforms, especially multi-sided platforms. If you have an idea, like platforms like Airbnb, Uber, basically platforms that their value comes from their users more than their features. So it is very interesting, and there are a lot of, let's say, economic dilemmas and entrepreneurship dilemmas around this type of platforms. And if we have the time to discuss, of course, about that, I'll be happy to share. You need to know that platforms are basically dominating the world digital market now. When you talk about Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Google, Alibaba, Uber, Airbnb, these companies sometimes have valuation that exceeds countries' GDPs. So it's really, really important to understand how do they work, how to build this type of platforms, and so on. And by the way, they could have a huge and big scalable social impact. They can be dangerous as well if not well monitored. But this is a topic that I'm so much interested in. This is it about me. Before going into the content, I'd love to hear from you. Anything that you want to drop on the table with a question for me before we start, or an expectation, like what do you expect from the session? What do you want to learn from it? Or anything or an experience that you want to share even before starting, that would be much appreciated. You could share it as a message, and I'd be happy to read it on Zoom, or orally, which also appreciated because it reinforces our sense of belonging and our sense of community inside this Zoom call.
I have a question.
Yes, let's go.
I am quite interested in the business that you said you created. We talked about your digital solutions for many events, but how do they translate? What are the services that you actually provide? What are the goods of your company? Because I simply don't understand what it's about.
Of course. The event market is very specific market. One fun fact about the event market, when there are studies that have been done on what is the most stressful job, right? And the most stressful job is actually being the military, which makes sense because there's danger, there's risk, and so on. But the surprising fact is the second most stressful job. And the second most stressful job is event organizer. Do you know why? Because there are
Why?
so many details in organizing an event, and you need to have all these details work perfectly in real time. If anything is missed out, not well done, then there is big problem, and the big problem will be visible because everybody is expecting something. So basically, and usually event organizers, they have scattered solutions. So we use WhatsApp, we use Excel, we use a table for management, we do phone calls, and we manage many suppliers. And this kind of fragmented information, fragmented solutions increase the stress and the pressure on event organizer. So basically what we do is we integrate all the solutions needed to organize an event in one single platform. And we provide that either as a white label, like branded but with the name of the client, or in a marketplace. And to be more specific, an event starts with a website and a mobile app that you need to invite people to register or to pay their tickets. Needs a CRM to promote invitation, to promote visibility, to promote registration. And when the event starts, you need a check-in system with badging and smart badging and QR codes and stuff like that. Sometimes NFC even kind of check-ins. So we need also a way to monitor the access to the space if it's a physical event. And if it's an online event, you need to monitor the video conferencing and the live streaming. And you should be able that your live streaming can support thousands of participants at the same time. So it has to be, in terms of infrastructure, very scalable. Um, of course, when it comes into the detail, we add also the appointment, like B2B meetings inside an event. Many events, big events, have also appointment meeting systems. We help matchmake professionals during events with the accuracy of similarity between profiles. And then all of this is combined to provide an extensive dashboard, not only that shows the event KPIs, but also that shows the carbon footprint of an event. So we highlight very much the fact that hybrid events tend to reduce carbon footprint by reducing mobility for the events. This is what we are doing so far, and we're providing this in white label or as a marketplace. I hope that's more clear, Firs.
It is very interesting, actually. It's very clear. Thank you. And it's very interesting. What's the name of your business, sir?
It's Eve, Evey, Eve.live.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I'll add it in the chat if you want to check it out. Any other question or expectations as well? I'd love to know you and know what you're expecting from the session. Our talk is about sustainable entrepreneurship. So I'm sure also you have question in your mind that you're curious about. I see Olina raising hand. Go ahead, Olina.
Yeah, thank you. Hi. Um, I'm from Kiev, from Ukraine, and I'm studying psychology. That's just a little bit. And from this lecture, I'm hoping to learn how green innovation moves from ideas into implementation and how it shapes the future market trends. So I'm looking forward to hearing about this.
Very interesting, very interesting. So, yeah, actually, first of all, let me say that psychology in particular is a very, very important domain for business because in business, we deal with people. And to deal with people, we need to develop empathy. And developing empathy means that we need to actually develop a kind of framework of understanding, a framework of analyzing how people think, how people act, how people decide, what are people's expectations, and so on. So I think that your type of profile, when reinforced with business knowledge, can be outstanding in terms of results. Now, applying that to green startup, it's even more interesting. Why? Because green business implies that people change behavior. Usually, we admit by assumption that there's so many things that could actually reduce pollution, whether it's air pollution or water pollution or something like that, or maybe circular economy or waste reduction. But we observe that citizens and people in general do not act accordingly. And we keep asking why the change is not taking place. Well, actually, if we understand the people's behavior, if we understand the people expectation, if we understand the people resistance to change, then maybe we can find the triggers, the nudges to help them change their behavior. So we'll definitely talk about example later on about green and social innovation. And I'm sure we'll find solutions or ways to approach that that could be helpful. But I'll be happy and pleased overall the discussion to talk about this. So please, anytime, jump on and enrich the discussion. Thank you, Olena.
Thank you.
Anybody else? What is popping up in your mind currently? Maybe we can go in and step by step things will come. But I'll be happy to, of course, hear from you your feedback. So let me share my screen. All right. Share. Do you see my screen?
Yes, yes.
Very good. This one. All right, so I'll leave the chat box always posted here so that if you have question, I can see it very quickly and I can interact with it. So please, that's what's going to enrich the session. I don't like to talk to myself, so or either to call a computer. So I appreciate when there is as much interaction as possible. So our topic is about, as I said, it's about social entrepreneurship. Um, and I mean, I guess the first thing is, of course, to try to define it, to understand what is social entrepreneur or sustainable entrepreneurship. What do we mean by it? And I can tell you, I have friends that are really into social entrepreneurship. So, like, they run social co-working spaces or social incubators, or they run social business. And we frequently meet around dinner or lunch and we discuss. And believe me, every time we meet, there is this discussion that pops up. Is that a social business? What's the meaning of social business or sustainable business more general? And I can tell you that the agreement is hard to find. So before going into kind of definition that we can agree on within the next minutes and move on to see examples and so on, how would you define social entrepreneurship or sustainable entrepreneurship? You can again drop messages on the chat box or speak orally. But what is your definition of sustainable entrepreneurship? Yes, Firs.
So sustainable entrepreneurship, I think, is how a business how long can a business last? So a sustainable entrepreneurship is making a business that lasts more, that is sustained more than normal businesses. It's an actual business venture which has a long life.
It's very interesting. I agree with you on the approach of sustainability, saying it's a long life and so on. But to challenge this, I can say that every business purpose is to last as long as possible. And no business is supposed to die. I mean, many will die, but that's not the goal. Today we're talking about 95% of, or at least maybe 5% of survival rate of businesses, right? So yes, sustainability matter, but in this, there's something else that is into consideration. Oliana?
Okay. For me, this is about how to create a stability business and also correctly communicate with your some member, some members, co-members, on your business. I don't know what correctly said it.
So
Say
you're
it.
integrating the communication that you have with your team members, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, that's also interesting. We will see an example that integrates that. But in that case, I can also challenge by saying, well, in any business, we need internal communication. We need to discuss with each other, the CEO, the leaders, the teammates, etc., etc. So we'll take it. We'll take note on that, and we'll be back to it. But let's now move on and see what are other consideration we can take. I'll go to Noor and then Olina.
Do you hear me?
Yes, I do.
Okay, I think sustainable entrepreneurship differs in comparison to traditional entrepreneurship in terms of how they behave or how they address environmental, social, or ethical problems. Like they
Mhm.
are still making profit, but the way they are doing it or the final goal is benefiting the communities and the future generations.
Okay, we're moving forward. So we take into consideration the environmental impact, the social impact, and I agree on that. However, the last one is ethical, right?
Yes,
That's harder to approach, isn't it?
yes,
I guess here we are a community of I don't know 60 member in the same Zoom. If we ask the question, what is definition of ethical, we potentially would have 60 definition of what is
exactly.
ethical, what
Yeah.
is not. So yeah, I agree on environmental and social. Ethical is a little bit more delicate um, to define at least, but we'll keep it. I guess that everyone has its own definition, even though there is an absolute approach to understanding it. Thank you, Noor. Olena?
So, well, it was said before, but basically what I think is that both sustainable and social entrepreneurships, they focus on providing this positive impact into either environment, which is sustainability, and or society in general, like tackling some social problem, which is social, but of course, the entrepreneurship can be both sustainable and social and gaining profit while still helping the environment and society.
Very good. Um, I think I agree with you. So you mentioned the environment and the social and the economic because it has to be profitable anyway and create jobs, and that's very important. Okay, I'm going to try to challenge your thoughts. Okay, uh, and this is what I'm going to say. If we say that there is social enterprise, does that mean that normal enterprise are not social? Does that mean that
That
creating a
enterprise
company?
are not focused.
Hmm?
Sorry, can you repeat that last phrase? Sorry.
Let me rephrase it. If we say that there is social entrepreneurship, does that mean that if we say entrepreneurship alone, it's not social? You see, you got my point? By differentiating social entrepreneurship to normal not entrepreneurship, do we mean there is a social one and a non-social one? What do you think, Noor?
Definitely, I think the way that traditional businesses are behaving with the social aspect is very different from the social enterprises. I think maybe the only area where they are being social is giving salary to their employees, or I don't know, indemnities in case they are fired with no reasons.
It would have been better if you don't pay salaries. That's what you meant?
Yeah, exactly.
Well noted, well noted. Thank you. Oriana?
Okay. Um, I correctly understand social enterprise, not social. Um,
This is my question. That was my
okay.
question.
Okay.
Think about,
Wait,
right? It's worth
uh,
thinking about.
please can you repeat your question?
It's a tricky question. I know it's a tricky question. Olena,
I would like to disagree with Noah because I think everything that happens in life, everything is social. Because either way, a regular entrepreneurship, there is communication between people. They do something that they, for example, sell to people. So there is this relationship between a society and a business. On the other hand, when the entrepreneurship is social, we can define this social by saying about the impact.
mm-hmm.
So if it's strictly business, so we're doing anything by any means just to gain money. Yeah, it is social, but it's not given any positive impact to the society. But if we are doing business while gaining money and helping people, that's social that I think you're
Okay.
gonna talk about.
Well noted, well noted. But I think you agree with me that it remains there is some confusion, right? Because we can say that any business has an impact as long as it creates jobs and solves the problems and provides something to the society. But at the same time, there is a specific nature to social businesses, and that's what we need to define, actually. Yes, Firs?
So I wanted to say that there can be a social aspect, and at the same time, there also can not be a social aspect in entrepreneurship. So there have been multiple sightings of apps and innovations that have gone under the radar, only to be discovered by somebody who made them more famous afterwards. Of course, so I'm not talking about the same people that made the said app or said business. So even when lacking a social aspect, what I want to say is even when lacking a social aspect, sometimes your own clientele can make it so that it is that social aspect is in itself filled.
Okay, very good. So it's like it's self-fulfilled. It's you're going with the approach of saying at the end of the day, any business has some social impact, right?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
Because there needs somebody to buy the product for the
So there's a
business to
need.
exist.
Yes.
So there is a need, there is an interaction with the society, there is an interaction with other people, and you have to interact with them to sell them your products.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Noor?
Yes, I think at a certain extent, if we think like that, like Firis and Olena just said, everything that would involve human interaction would be social. But I think when you asked what is and a social enterprise, I don't know. Let's think about a finance enterprise. Its goal, its aim is toward finance, and I think it's a matter of nature. The nature of a social enterprise is done for and from social goals. I don't know. This is my interpretation.
Yeah, we're moving forward. By what you added here, we're moving forward in understanding. So here, you adding into what we have been discussed is the intention.
Yes, exactly.
The initial intention was to have an impact, as opposed to another intention that is to make money, for instance.
Yes,
And you could make money while having social impact, and you could intend to have social impacts while having money. It's the which one is first, right?
exactly.
Oliana?
Okay, social enterprise models, I don't know, maybe this is what about communicate with society, not only your team members, but also society, which for um 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 excuse me, I forgot what for understanding understand people. What about your business? What about your
Mm,
startup? I
yes.
believe
That's about empathy to the people and understanding the people and understanding
this
what
is
their needs.
if short, this is about introduce your business or your startup and methods uh to create to do it.
Okay. So if I understood well, it's the capacity to understand the need of the people and propose solutions that solve their problem, and you take care of that into the startup, right?
Yes, I meant this.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, let me check out what we have as messages in the chat. So Mariam is saying a business concerned with the future, making sure not to compromise future resources while responding to today's needs. It's very interesting, in fact, to add this component of future needs, not only now, integrating generation needs. So it's not only for our generation, but also for future generations. And I think we all know that the industrial revolution, of course, changed life, create profit, and create revenues. but also created a lot of pollution that is inducing now, for instance, climate change, right? So when we invest, not only about us and about generation, it's also about future generation, and that's really important. Thank you, Mariam, for putting that on the table. Also, Irina is mentioning what steps should the student take to turn a startup idea into a real project? What should be prioritized at the early stage to increase the chances of success? So maybe we'll be talking about this all along the presentation, but globally speaking, to take a startup into a real project, the first thing is to start executing. Do a prototype and go to the market. Get out of the building. Stop overthinking. This is what would be my answer to that. I'll be back to it at different moments in the presentation. All right. So actually, um, we're back to the governance. Noura is asking the question about governance. We'll have an example about that later. So actually, I agree with you. There is this problem of definition. And whenever you ask people that work on sustainable entrepreneurship or social entrepreneurship, they fight to find the right definition. But I think that both businesses, they need to have profit. Both businesses, they need to be financially sustainable, because a business that is not financially sustainable, that doesn't make money, it's not a business. It's a charity, it's an association, it's civil society activity. But then when we talk about sustainability, we prioritize the social impact. We prioritize the environmental impact. We prioritize the people. This is in the heart of social entrepreneurship, which means, we discussed this earlier, it's the intention. We launched the project to solve a social problem, an environmental problem. And then we find a business model to make it happen. Whereas a regular entrepreneur would say, okay, I see a business, I see an opportunity, I see a need, I will make it and I will try to make as much money as possible. Of course, it will have social impact, but that's not the intention, right? So intention matters. So if we get back to the definition here, we would say that sustainable entrepreneurship is the process of building ventures that address market failures in a way that generates the environment and society, regenerates the environment and society. It's regenerative capitalism. So in a certain way, we're still into um, an enterprise mindset, an economic mindset, because it's a company and company has costs and needs to make prices and charge that. So we are into a market behavior. However, it's regenerative. It takes into account different generations. It's not only for this generation, so it takes into account the social impact, the environmental impact. It takes into account people that potentially suffer from poverty, suffer from inequality, suffer from difficulty of access, people that cannot pay for the climate change is affecting their lives, but they cannot pay or overcome that. So there is an environmental and social concern that is very, very important. It's the part of the bottom of the pyramid where we take into account the inclusiveness of our product, right? So this is very important in social business. So these points have been discussed and along the discussion earlier. The social, the economy, and the environment. Sustainable entrepreneurship is in between. We do care about social values and social impact. That is something we care about and we take it into account and we integrate it. We do care about environment. We talk about eco entrepreneurs, green entrepreneurs, etc. But we do care about also about the economy, the financial sustainability of the business, the profitability of the business, and so on. And sustainable entrepreneurship is in the middle of these three circles. So social, environmental, and economic. It combines the three at the same time. Is this clear? So for instance, yes?
Yes.
So for instance, let's take some social problems that we want to solve. What would be social problems that we want to solve? You can write in the chat again or speak orally as you wish.
Poverty and injustice.
Okay, poverty,
Injustice.
injustice, of course, lack of access. Fairs.
Risk. So there is a big, for example, there is a big risk of somebody getting in an accident. So you create an insurance, for example.
Yeah, actually, the approach of risk is very interesting when we address topics of social and environment both, and in particular to address problems related to poverty. Um, One of the things that poor population faces is higher risk than rich population. And the fact when you face higher risk without insurance, this reduces your capacity to take initiative because you're gonna diversify your time, your assets, which means you'll not be very productive in anything. The point of including an insurance or micro insurance, we call it, is very important indeed as a social business or a social entrepreneurship that helps poor mitigate the risk they can face. Think about farmers that face the risk, the climate risk. Small farmers that if it doesn't rain, then they will face problem of lack of crops or not enough crops, and not and this of course will affect their capacity to to have a necessary income for themselves and for their family. And if no insurance, that also will complexify the situation. Okay, so yeah, managing risk, especially for poor population, is very very important, and providing solutions like micro insurance is fundamental. All right. Any other examples of social education access? Yes, absolutely. One of the most important aspects is education. So you cannot talk about free market if there is not access to same quality of education. It means that, of course, pure market venerate competition. And I think somehow we all believe in competition as a fair system of redistribution. When we say a fair system for distribution, it means, yeah, if I work more, if I work harder, if I sacrifice more than others, then I should have access to better elements and information and success and so on. But this will be unfair if not everybody starts at the same level. So if only, let's say, a certain part of the population has access to quality education, and another part of the population does not have access to the same quality of education, we cannot talk about fair competition. Is that clear? A fair competition
Yes,
means that we have equal access to not only education, but to everything that's needed in terms of resources to be successful in a certain way. So yes, access to education is fundamental with respect to that. So Irina's question is, in your opinion, what are the biggest challenges students face when trying to implement sustainable entrepreneurship in real projects, and how can they overcome them? It's a big question. Big question, Irina. It's not an easy one. It needs a lot. It needs a lot. Where can I start? Especially here, precising students. Um, Based on my experience, having worked with students or in active groups that take care actually about social entrepreneurship and so on, the problem that the students face is actually paradoxal because they put a lot of attention to the social factor and not enough to the sustainability factor, the sustainability which is financial sustainability. Sometimes students put a lot of effort in solving the social problem, which is normal, but not enough maybe on the financial sustainability. And that's put pressure on the business, puts pressure on the success and reliability and continuity of the business. So that's one thing. I'd say yes. Let's start with a social problem, but let's give attention to the business model, the financial business model from the beginning. Don't underestimate it. If we want to do social only, we can do an association, not a business, and then we can help everybody. But a business has to generate revenues. That's one thing. how can they overcome at least this type of problem with correct mentoring from peer, from experts, professionals, and so on, and by having a clear vision, I guess, whether they are doing this only as a social project or they want to make money out of it, that has to be clarified. But this is at least what I can say so far, right? Students, when they start, they usually prioritize the social aspect over the financial aspect, but we need both. As you can see, sustainable entrepreneurship is in the middle. It's like a three-pillar chair. If one of the pillar falls, then the business falls, right? If you're building a social business but that is not economically sustainable, it doesn't make sense. We cannot continue. If you're doing a social business but it's economically sustainable but it's harming the environment, it doesn't make sense because there is negative effects. If it's good for the environment and the economy, but it harms people that actually need whatever it is, and so it harms social, it has a bad social impact, then same thing, it's not sustainable because these people will go into uprising and they actually will, how can I say, will refuse or reject what is environmentally correct, but socially is not. So we need this balance between these three, and I guess that's the difficulty also and the challenge is being aware of every single element and designing the sustainable business from the start. From the start, taking into consideration the three pillars. Yes,
Hello.
you're welcome. You're welcome. Okay. Any other reaction before moving on? I think now we have a good definition, right? We understand what are we talking about. So we're talking about something that should combine the economy, the social, and the environment. That's to be sustainable in three terms: financially sustainable, socially sustainable. We don't have uprising since after launching. Environmentally sustainable. It doesn't create pollution afterward. And of course, we see examples coming in after. Okay. Okay. Let's have a dilemma question. Let's think about it. If a social enterprise scales through heavy venture capital investment, is it more likely to drift away from its core mission of serving the poor, for instance? So you have the social business that is doing pretty well, and then you have investors. And then investors put money on the equity. Well, having external investors putting money on the table, is that a risk to forget about the initial mission and make the business more financially sustainable than other things? What do you think about this? Or should we keep the business for ourselves? Don't get investors with you, because if you get investors, they will actually deviate the business from its initial vision. Faris?
So I think the addition of external investors can be done, but only in the condition that we actually know the investor and that they are quite in with us on the idea, on the business, on our vision, on our mission. We cannot just. I don't think that opening a company publicly so that everyone can buy a large part of it and just buy it, like for example X has done, is the right option, because you may at any moment lose the value that the people had of you, and you can lose even sometimes your identity, or for because of also other things. They can demand that that we shut down the business
Shut down
completely.
or deviate from the initial vision or ask for more profitability rather than social impact. All these things can happen. So basically what you're saying is we need to make sure that we are aligned in terms of vision with the investors, right?
Yes, exactly. Yes, that's it.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Oriana?
Okay. If short, in my opinion, mm, 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 mm. I think capital investment don't uh wait a minute, a second. Don't don't induce social enterprise leave it commission, because I think find investors, this is uh, more opportunity for help people who serving the poor, and also I think most important to find like-minded investors,
Okay.
not only investors with a big budget.
Okay.
Yes,
So the investors that care about the social impact, I think. Yeah.
yes, yes.
Very good. Olena?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that it's a good question, and definitely investments, they're good in terms that more money means more help that the business can provide to people. On the other hand, investors are not given money just for no reason. They would want something in return, so more profit, or maybe they would want to businesses to shift the direction a bit, as you were saying. So it brings pressure. So it's really important to find this balance in between, like using money but using it for the right cause and finding investors who share the same values.
Yeah, sounds good. Absolutely. So you need to find the right investors actually, because there are different types of investors, of course. There are investors that are looking for the profitability and the income and the dividends or the exit at the end. But there are many investors also that prioritize the social impact. So it's important when you do a sustainable business, managing environmental impact and social impact, it's very important from the beginning to know who you work with and who you have as investors. Not only the investors, yes, the investors should be impact investors. That's how we call them, impact investors. But also, even your team should be a team that takes care and aware about social impact and environmental impact. Anybody here heard about Grameen Bank? Have you heard about Grameen Bank before? Anybody?
What
So,
can you put it in the chat, the name?
yeah, I actually check out the website. It's even better. Uh, Grameen Bank. Uh, it's called Bank for the Poor. Anybody have heard about this before?
No.
No, I don't seen before.
Okay. So this is a bank called Grameen Bank. And as you see in the statement, it says Bank for the Poor. Why? The founder of this bank, who is Muhammad Yunus, is the person we saw in the first picture. His guy is actually the founder of Grameen Bank. And he's also a Nobel Prize, I think, I'm not sure Nobel Prize in Peace or in economics, but he's a Nobel Prize. So actually, what was the point of Muhammad Yunus from Bangladesh, actually, when he launched the business? His point was actually the problem of the poor is not uh, reimbursement of the credit, but it's access to the credit. And usually the poor do need some funding, not the big amounts, small amounts, very small, either to launch a small business or to fund small activities at home or for the education of the kids, small amounts. But banks, of course, reject them because there is no guarantee, there is no guarantee, no funds, no banking history, nothing. So they don't have access to traditional banking system. So this guy, Muhammad Yunus, came in and say, you know what? I'm going to create a bank that lends to the poor, which means it lends very, very small amount. Like it could lend from $100 to $5,000 maximum. It's not a big deal, right? But for the people that don't have access to banks, it could be life-changing because it could facilitate their, I don't know, their grocery. They can start with a small business and they can reimburse weekly. So it's a small amount and then you can reimburse the next week and then get more and then move on step by step. This is what is Grameen Bank about. We call that microfinance. Okay? So here, let's discuss about this. So socially, is it impactful? Yes. The intention was to solve the social problem, right? Uh, Environmentally, it's not clear. At least when they started, the environment was not an important pillar or a visible pillar that has been mentioned, but more now they integrate that into the business. Now, economically, is it a viable business? And this is the tricky question now. Is it a viable business? Because I mean, we can say, okay, lending to the poor, there is no guarantee of reimbursement. So if we lend, maybe a big percentage they will not reimburse, and if they don't reimburse, we are not sustainable. Or we could say, lending small amounts, uh, maybe it's not profitable. So is this business, or how can this business be viable? Yes, Firs.
So I think the business is viable because we are just lending small amounts of money to poor people, and in my experience, hiring other people, especially those who are poor, makes quite an impression and helping poor people makes them loyal to you and grateful. So the added bonus of having a social relationship, quite impactful social relationship, can almost negate the default action. So I think this is viable because of it.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, I agree with you on the fact that lending to the poor, and usually they are very loyal. In fact, that's true. And I'll add one element to that. They created what we call a group lending system. Have you heard about this before? Group lending system or group guarantee?
No.
Anybody heard about this before?
No.
So let me explain this. When you lend to a poor family, a woman doing handicraft or something like that, you cannot ask like in traditional bank. You would ask for a guarantee. Yes, I think somebody has a micro.
Could you please reset, please? Ilona,
I don't know which microphone is open.
it's set.
Okay. So yeah, when you lend money, let's say to this woman living on rural areas, have some handicraft product, you cannot ask like a traditional bank for a guarantee. Usually, the traditional bank would ask for a collateral, like a certificate for home ownership or something that actually could serve as a collateral. But these people do not have that. So what is the collateral? What is the guarantee in that case? Any bank needs a guarantee. They invented what we call social guarantee. And that's what we call the group lending. The group lending is that actually the bank will lend to 4 or 5 women from that rural village, and every woman will guarantee the other one. Right? Now, how does this work? If in the next period one of the women within the group does not reimburse, then no one of the other women in the group will be lended again. And given the fact that they are very socially close, they potentially live in the same neighborhood or same village, then there is very strong social connections. And since this will actually bring value to everyone in the group, no one will accept that a member gets in the group that is not trustworthy. So there is a social guarantee instead of the financial or collateral ownership guarantee. Then there is a social guarantee that makes sure that the society chooses the members of the group that have access to lending and make sure that they are trustworthy. Is that clear? Is the example clear?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Now,
Thank
now
you.
here, what do we have? We have a situation where we start with a social problem. We find an innovation, which is micro lending, to solve the social problem. And we found another innovation to solve the sustainability of the business as a social guarantee, right? Still, there is one point: the interest rate. I mean, it's a bank, it lends money, so you need to reimburse after. And when you reimburse, there is an interest rate. So, according to you, should the interest rate here be lower, equal, or higher to the traditional bank interest rate?
Same. Why must it be higher?
So you say higher, somebody I think said same. Mm-hmm.
I just said same.
You said same first. Anybody said lower, higher, or same simply? You all agree on the same? You can put something like this to say yes, we're okay on that. Well, actually, it's higher, and it's usually much higher. The interest rate is a mechanism that evaluates risk. The more risky is the borrower, the higher is the interest rate. Also, the smaller the amount, the higher is the interest rate. So actually, in Tunisia, for instance, where the banking interest rate is around 11%, 12%, microfinance interest rate is around 20 to 25%. So it's like 10 points more. Now, here's the question. And I don't have, I mean, this is just to challenge our thoughts, okay? To challenge our thoughts on the definition of sustainability. What do you think about that? Is it fair? Is or not? So we give access to the funding, social guarantee, but the interest rate is a bit higher. A bit or more than a bit higher. It's sometimes it's
Sorry, sir,
substantially higher.
sorry, sir, but how is it any different from being a loan shark?
You say so. I haven't said that.
No, I said that how is this any different from being a loan shark?
Yeah, I got your point, but I haven't said that these companies or this microfunding organization are low sharks. And this is my question to you, actually, to elaborate the debate. Jacinka, I hope I'm pronunciating your name correctly. Yes, I think there's a hand risen by Jacinka. Is my pronunciation correct? Or maybe she's not hearing us. But you got the dilemma. You got the understanding of the dilemma here. By the way, there's always high interest rate. Economically speaking, it makes sense. Economically speaking, because at the end of the day, Grameen Bank also borrows money from other banks, and they pay interest rate to those other banks, and then they lend to the people that are in need. But they actually have a higher risk of reimbursement. They have a smaller amount of credits, and those small amount of credits needs management. Think about every file, every credit that is given needs a person that's build the file, follow up with a lender, create the social group guarantee, meet people, etc., etc., etc. So there's a cost. There's an additional cost, and that makes that the cost of lending is higher than traditional banks. At the end of the day, to make this business sustainable, we need to have that social impact, right? But we need to also to have the economic viability. And the economic viability means that the bank needs to cover the costs. The management cost, the access to money cost, the guarantee cost, etc., etc. So Faiz mentioned this is a shark lender. No, it's not necessarily that. It's just There's an economic cost that has to be covered to be sustainable. And by the way, now microfinance is a widespread business that exists all over the world and that gives credit to people that without that wouldn't have access to credit. Okay? And there are of course dilemmas about that. And there are people that criticize that. But at the end of the day, the people that actually lend, they get better off because the access to credit help them moving or getting up on the level, improving their houses, invest in businesses, and reimburse the credit. And when they reimburse, they still have access. And that has a huge benefit to, to the society. And yes, the interest rate is higher, but the interest rate, because it's in percentage, if you compare that to the amount, it's not a big deal. So it's like reimbursing $100, reimbursing it at 120. It's still manageable because the amounts are not big. But 20% on $100,000, that's a big deal. I don't know if you got my point. Any reaction or question or anything you want to add on this?
No, thank you. I just understood it.
So this is very important to understand because the example of microfinance could be يعني criticized to this regard, but it is something that actually makes sense as a sustainable business. Okay. Jessica is still raising her hand. I think either she forget about it, or but anyway, you can jump in anytime. I do not see the chat anymore. I don't know why, but so please let me know when you have a question. All right. So let's compare traditional model. No, also here we're gonna talk about the scalability of social impact, right? What does it mean, scalability? Anybody could define scalability? Have you heard about this word before? Scalable.
I don't remember what it mean. What does it mean?
Okay. Well, yes, as I see Hjorthi explaining, it's basically that capacity to grow, right? Thank you for putting that up. Yes, Firs.
I was just about to say the same thing.
Yeah. The scalability is the capacity to grow fast, is the capacity to go from 0 to 100 very quickly. It's the capacity to scale up without increasing the cost proportionally. It means you can grow while keeping your costs low or limited. So also when we think about sustainable business, we can have a business that have a small social impact on the neighborhood we're living, right? But if you're able to make that business scale up and touch the world everywhere, then it becomes scalable. Grameen Bank has been scalable because the model has been replicated all over the world. They started doing this microfunding in Bangladesh, but now there is almost no country that doesn't have a microfunding organization. Of course, the model has been replicated. It's not the same bank that is everywhere, but it inspired many businesses to do the same exercise of doing microcredits. Airbnb, no, you don't look at it necessarily as a social business, but when Airbnb came, it was crisis in the US. Revenues were dropping. People were needing for an extra income. So when Airbnb came, it said, okay, why don't you rent this extra room that you have at home? So generating additional revenue to people. In this regard, we can say it has a social impact. And Airbnb now is all over the world. It started in one place, which is where they started in San Francisco and then they went to New York. But now almost everybody in the world generates revenues thanks to the Airbnb platform. That's the scalability we're talking about. Is it clear now? So if we now compare traditional models, when you build a sustainable business in traditional model, it reaches the local village or the physical shop. If it's digitally facilitated and scalable, then we can reach out to global market. So the impact will not be limited to a geographical place. In traditional model, the transaction cost is high. The way to find your client, to guarantee, to control and everything, that is costly. In type of peer-to-peer platform, it's going to be much lower, right? Impact tracking, usually if you have a traditional model, it's going to be manual tracking, like, okay, it's in the neighborhood, it's these people, etc., etc. Whereas if we build a digitally sustainable or growing or scalable business, then it's data driven, which means we can use blockchain, we can use IoT, we can use technology, we can use AI to scale up the social impact. Usually in traditional business, the impact, the capital at the beginning is high proportionally to the business. Whereas if we go to digitally facilitated model, it's going to be very agile and very flexible, and the infrastructure will be very very scalable. Okay, so here we're adding two dimensions to the sustainability. We said the social, the economically, and the environment, but we add also the scalability, the capacity to replicate the model everywhere in the world, right? That's a scalability point. So you make a small thing in your neighborhood, it is successful, but then you say, okay, how can I digitalize this? And you build a platform that manages it, and then it scales up. Of course, every time there will be the context. The context of the place where you're scaling matters, because sometimes the context from a country to a country, from a region to a region, could change, and that change maybe put some barriers to scalability. So that's to be taken into consideration. Any question on this?
No, thank you for
No.
explanation.
All right. Okay, now, so I think we went through it. Let's recap. Sustainable business, social, environmental, and economic, right? The three should go hand in hand. Then we can add this, another layer. Okay, let's make it scalable now. So first it's social, economic, and environment, but then we add scalability, which means growing fast and be replicated in many places in the world. And that's what makes where the magic happens in a certain way. Now, let's see how can we structure our thoughts. I'm sure you guys know this template, right? This is the BMC. Everybody knows the BMC, I guess. Do you?
Yes.
I think you had sessions before on the BMC, right? So
Our first class of MSB is about this, actually.
and repeated many times first, I guess, right? So
Yeah.
the BMC is a framework that helps draft very quickly the economic business model of a business. So it has 9 blocks, starting from customer segments to value proposition. So what is this? What the value we're providing to every customer? To revenues we're generating from every customer segment. Then customer relationship and channels, right? So how do we communicate with our customers? How do we distribute our product to our customers? Then activities and resources, which means this is our back office. What are the activities we do to produce the good? What are the resources we need to do these activities? Partners, who are our friends with whom we share the same interest, that are willing to actually, we have a win-win situation and help us achieving our goals. And the costs that are driven from activities and resources. And this way, in one page, we can draft the BMC. Okay? So the BMC is really focused on, when we saw earlier the 3 circles, we saw the economic, social, and environment. Which circle is addressed by the BMC?
The economy.
Of course, it's the economic factor that we can see here. So as a framework, it's not enough for us to assess our business in the 3 dimensions, which includes the social and the environment. We don't see anything about the social here. We don't see anything about the environment. So you could make a very financially interesting business, but maybe socially harmful or environmentally harmful. So we need to add other layers to this one. Any question on the BMC before moving to the second layer? No question. I think you're done with the BMC, right?
No, no, no,
We're
no.
done with it. We don't want to hear any more about it. Okay, sounds good. So next one. This is an environmental life cycle business model canvas. So this one is not focused on the economic aspect. It focuses on the environmental life cycle. So this is a second circle. And in this one, we really want to take care, instead about revenues and costs, we take care about environmental benefits and environmental impacts. What is the positive for the environment? What is negative for the environment? And to do that, we replace our customer segment by the use phase. How our customers are using our solution. And what's the functional value we're proposing to our use phase? How are we distributing our product to this? And what's the end of life of our product? Like when our customers are done with our product, what happens? Does it go just to garbage? Or is it
Circular
recycled?
economy.
Hmm?
Circular economy.
Absolutely.
It just
So,
goes in a loop.
absolutely. That's what we need, actually. But this model will tell us. So if we think about our business without thinking about the end of life, it means the end of life of our products, it means that we're neglecting some part that is important in the environmental circle. So it pushes us to think and take into account every single element. The production. How is the production made? Is our production sustainable? Does it include environmental aspect? Are we measuring the carbon footprint of our production? What are the materials we're using? Do we have AC that is open 24/7 when we use materials? Are we using diesel machines or are we using electric energy, solar energy? Are we using wind energy? Which energy are we using here? And what about our supplies? Do we have norms and standards that fix our supplies, that guarantee or limit the environmental impact that we have? Actually, this framework is very interesting because if we do it, we're going to ask the right questions to identify what is our environmental impact. And then when we find positive impacts, we're going to add them here as benefits. And when we have negative impacts, which is sort of environmental cost, we're going to add it here. And this is completes our BMC because BMC is really focused into the economic. This one is really focused into the environmental impact. We will see an example later on, okay? Now let's just check out the framework and discuss it, and we'll see an example with this. Any question on this? So we have like the whole supply chain from the use phase to the distribution, end of life, functional value, production materials, input, which is supply or outsourcing, and then we have the benefits and impacts, positive and negatives, like benefits and costs. Sounds good?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Very
Yes.
good. Now let's go to the social impact. And here we take into account the social stakeholder business model canvas. It's like we have the BMC for the economic, we saw for the environment, now we see it for the social impact. So who is the end user again? And are we taking into consideration inclusiveness when we consider end user? Are we taking parameters that facilitate the life of people that don't have access to certain goods or services into that? What are the segments we are supporting? We're facilitating accessibility. So this is a social impact. Are we creating social value for these? And what is the social value we're creating? And are we limited? You say here we have the scale of outreach. Are we limited to a certain number of people? Or can we expand that? We talked about the scalability earlier to the whole planet. And what about the societal culture? Are we aligned with the local context and the local culture and the local, we discussed it earlier about ethical elements and context and so on. Are we aligned with that or are we hurting that? This is a parameter also to take into account. Again, this is the front office that will tell us about social benefits. But then getting back to the back office, governance. Are we the only one taking decisions in the company? Are we asking our users, our employee, to help us taking the decisions? Do we have participative approach in decision making? Do we have inclusive governance in the company? Is it a shared responsibility? So governance matter into the social impact. What about our employees? Do we take into consideration a work-life balance? Oliana addressed the question of communication inside the team earlier. Do we have a fair and transparent communication inside the company? Do we have a gender balance policy inside the company? Do we have an ethical chart inside the company? All of these are also part of the social impact. And then it goes beyond. As in the BMC, we talk about partners. Here we're going to talk about local communities. Are we integrated into the local community? And to what extent? So if we do the survey or the dashboard or the analysis of all of this, we're going to find out that we have some social benefits to be identified in terms of end user, scale, social value, governance, employees, and so on, but also maybe some negative social impacts, right? Do we have more positive or negative social impact? There are always trade-offs. It's impossible that to have something totally, purely positive. There are always trade-offs. There's ups and downs and everything. But what is our balance sheet of social impact? Is it positive or negative? Now, ideally, to build a sustainable business, we need to take into account these three frameworks. BMC, you know it. That's guaranteed the economic feasibility and sustainability. But also, we need to take into account the environmental layer with all these parameters. And then the social layers with all these parameters to help us building a 360 degrees coverage of the three circles so that we don't miss anyone. And have a pragmatic and rational analysis or assessment of what we are doing, and even potentially suggest ideas, because sometimes we simply don't think about them. And if we put this on the table, it's going to push us to think, okay, what's the end of life of my product? Is there a circular economy model behind it? Am I treating my employees correctly? These are questions that will arise. We're not obliged to answer yes to everything. We're not obliged to do everything, but we at least aim to have, let's say, at a minimum, a really minimum, is to be neutral. Like a strict minimum is to be, if you have negative impact, you should have positive impact to cover that. If you have negative social impact, you need to have social benefits to cover that. It's not greenwashing, and we don't want to do greenwashing. The point is to be more positive than negative, but at least to be aware about what are the different types of impacts that we have, and then try to overcome them, limit them, and even increase the benefits as compared to the negatives. Okay? Any question on this?
I
We're
have
gonna yes,
no, no.
good, fair enough. We're gonna see now an example. An example of this, we're gonna treat the case of Nespresso, the coffee. Everybody knows that. So we're gonna review the three frameworks: the BNC, the environment, and the social. And we're gonna try to analyze how Nespresso aims, at least, to be a sustainable business. So we'll start with the economic aspect. The BMC as an economic. So basically, coffee consumers, professional working from home, for instance, they like to have their own espresso. Boomers at home, but basically, um, we want to have the value proposition is to have a high-end restaurant quality espresso at home, right? Like the one that you would have in the best coffee in your neighborhood, but you have it at home or at work. So that's why it's professional working from home or boomers at home. But also now we have it in the workspace. We also do have Nespresso machines. So that's the value proposition is to have very good quality, accessible. So distribution, website, branded boutiques, call centers, and retail. There is also membership club. The revenue is like you sell the machine, and you have a main revenue as the capsules. We usually call this model bait and hook. Have you heard about the bait and hook model?
No.
So when we say bait and hook, what does it mean? Bait, what does it mean? Bait. Catch, right? And hook. It's like block, right? Maintain. So this business model is interesting because this is how it works. Nespresso sells the machine at a very affordable price. Maybe in the beginning it was a bit expensive, but the price of the Nespresso machine is not high. I guess we agree on that, right? It seems to me it's around $100 or a little bit less even. Maybe it's $50, $60. You get a machine. I don't know if anybody has a machine you can confirm or not the price of the machine. So the price of the machine is accessible. It's not non-affordable. But then you need to buy the rechargers. In the beginning, of course, they were not substitutes. When they started, it's just the Nespresso capsules. Now, of course, there are alternatives that are cheaper. But the quality of the Nespresso capsules remain better. Now, actually, they make much more money on the capsules rather than the machine. The margin on the capsules is higher. And that's why we call it bait and hook, assuming that if there is no substitute, when you buy the machine, you get the capsules, so you make much more margin on that. Sounds good?
Yes.
Yes.
Anybody has an example close to this? And we know it all?
Yes. The printer.
Yes.
The printers, of course. The printers is the same principle. You buy the machine, affordable price, but the recharging is much more expensive. Thank you for Rahma for the example. So yeah, this is the BMC of Nespresso. Distribution, marketing, coffee machine. All of this I think is clear, right? No need to spend more time on that, but the BMC is clear. Sounds good?
Yes.
Yeah.
Feel free anytime to add reactions. That gives me some energy. So thank you. Now let's check the environmental life cycle of the Nespresso machine. So user face. So the machine uses energy, right? The functional value, 40 milliliters of espresso coffee once daily multiplied by the amount of consumers. This is a kind of functional value. Distribution, yeah, so it goes through boats, through tracks. But then they have the end of life where you have capsule recycling. You see the percentage here, it's like a percentage of impact, right? Try to give some measurement of the impact. We will not care about that. We'll not. Our point now is not to calculate neither the positive nor the negative, but to have an understanding of how does the system work. What is the positive and what is the negative? So transportation has positive impact or increases the environmental impact, right? In terms of pollution, carbon footprint, etc., etc. But then if the capsules are recycled, so the end of life becomes a circular economy, right? And that has a positive impact on the environment. Now, the production, coffee preparation and capsule production has also environmental impact. The material being used, like coffee farming, aluminum for capsules, that harms the environment. Supplies and outsourcing, so machine production, energy for processes, water for processes. So environmental impact is about 1/3 carbon footprint from coffee farming, 1/4 carbon footprint from machine use, and almost 1/2 carbon footprint from industrial production. The point here is that we need to save carbon footprint by doing this capsule recycling, at least to limit the negative impact coming from the production and the raw materials that are being used. Okay? Now let's go to the social stakeholder business model Canva. So end user, well, we have the caffeine boost and we like that. Give us energy. We are much more happy. We are much more productive. It creates some warmth, some connections around the machine when we meet around the machine and share espresso capsules. And it's a beautiful taste that's good, also good mood. Social value, offering the world leading nutrition, health, and wellness through food and beverage, and improving the quality of life of the supply chain stakeholder. So as you can see here in the social value, there's one that is important. It says improving the quality of life of the supply chain stakeholders, which means the coffee producers. So, which means that Nespresso has also backward positive impacts, backward social positive impact. How is that? Well, if you look into local communities, 62,000 farmers that represent 84 production participate in AAA Sustainable Farming Program, developed in a partnership with a program that's called Rainforest Alliance. So the social impact at the end of the day, we have, of course, that potential caffeine dependency and little nutritional value, but in terms of social benefits, there's personal and professional growth for the supply chain. So it helps people that consume, but also people that produce. And there is transparency in terms of reporting, saying what is the origin of the coffee, where is it made from, what are the standards it respects, and so on. Okay? Any
Yes.
question? Yes.
No, I haven't.
Okay. So as you can see here, this is at least as present. Of course, we understand that this could be criticized. This is not pure example, let's say, right? Nespresso, we can also say it's a multinational, and they could have also some lot of negative social impacts that we can review. But what matters more for us, not the case of Nespresso itself, but the how to use the framework, measuring positive impact and negative impact, both for social and environmental and economic. Okay? Any reactions, questions before moving to other examples? The remaining time will focus really into other examples, plenty of examples of sustainable businesses. So BMC, economic value. Second model, environmental. And there we will see the circular economy, in particular, the carbon footprint, and the saving from machine redesign or recycling. Social, it's actually the social impact in terms of caffeine boost, warmth, and so on, but it's also the impact on the farmers by helping them improve their production, get certified, and belong to a community of farmers. So yeah, social impact creates potential caffeine dependency, little nutritional value. Yeah, coffee doesn't have that much value, but then benefits creates personal, professional growth and for supply chain and transparency in terms of reporting. This is actually how we can assess the pros and cons in a certain way. Any reaction, question, etc.?
No, it's very good. Thank you very much.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Yes, this is so interesting information.
Thank you. So it push us to think, it push us to think, to identify how can we handle these models, right? The economic, the environment, and the social. Okay, but let's go check out other examples. I skip this part because of the time and try to focus on the examples. And I'll start with, I'll be back to these ones depending on the time. I try to choose the ones on purpose, right? Because to be much more efficient in terms of time. So I will show you this startup. It's called Skila. It's a startup in Tunisia, okay? uh, before going into the details, I know the founder personally. Okay. The founder of Skila, his name is Hossein Labayed. He's been working on the financial sector in Dubai um in 2000, like between 2000 and 2010. Okay. In banking sector in particular. So he has an MBA, very high qualified and everything. After the start of the revolution in Tunisia, he decided to get back to the country to help rebuild the country. And this was not his business at that time. He worked on a project about wind energy, trying to build a new type of wind turbines that create energy in a much more efficient way, in a much more, um, uh, how can I say, productive way. His co-founder was the engineer. His co-founder was the inventor, let's say. I can show you maybe some pictures of the wind turbine they wanted to do. It was called Saffron Energy. Saffron is actually the god of wind in Carthage history. Okay, because Carthaginians were very strong in terms of navigating the Mediterranean, building civilizations, and so on. So, as you can see, the website is closed, and I tell you why. Because the company bankrupted. This is the conclusion of the first business. What is Saffron Energy? Let me check some images, maybe I can say. So actually, they built. You see this image? Maybe I can display it in the bigger screen. I want to display it bigger. Is it big enough here? You can see.
Yeah, we can
Yes.
still
Yes,
see.
yes, you can see.
So this is a new type of wind energy machine, right? And according to them, technically, it produces much more than the classical wind turbines, and helps to store. It's been inspired from ancient techniques. So they made this one and they tried to scale up. And starts from a social need actually. They wanted to produce clean energy, but it failed. According to you, why?
It's too it's too hard to manufacture, maybe?
To go fast, I'd say yes, first. It's hard to manufacture. There is a lot of competition. It's very capital intensive, right? And that's why it wasn't successful. Even though it was technologically maybe brilliant, but it wasn't doable in terms of what? Economic aspect. So here we check the box of the environment. Perhaps we can check the box of social, but not the economic. Because very costly to do, very costly to manufacture, and hardly scalable, and there is a lot of competition. Sounds good? So of course,
Yeah.
after the failure of this business, this is Hussein actually. This is the co-founder that I know. After the failure of this business, and it was quite failure, we heard about them when they launched. CNN was talking about them. Everybody was talking about them. But when they failed, they just disappeared. Nobody was talking about them anymore. That's it. It's death by silence. And instead of that, Hussein launched another business. And this is the other business that he launched. It's called Skila. You're actually making women's carpet. Nothing to do with the first business, right? So sometimes I make jokes with him. I tell him, Hussein, you stayed in the business of wind. First of all, you tried to actually build wind turbines to convert wind into energy. Now you're making carpet to protect women from wind. You remain in the business of wind, but it's a different thing. Now, what makes this special? Actually, I'll show you a video actually of Skila. Okay, let me show you this video. Do you hear the sound or not? Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
So let me put you in the context and the environment of this business, and then we'll talk about it.
Now I don't hear the sound.
Yeah, we could hear it in the beginning, but then when you pressed play again, we can't hear it now.
All good? You don't have
Yes,
the sound?
but we don't have the sound. Yes.
No.
Okay, let me. Maybe it's the sharing parameters. I will reshare my screen because sometimes you need to say when you share that you share it with a sound. Just let me check this out and I'll fix that. So share sound. Now it's gonna work. Hopefully. Share. You see my screen?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, we can see.
All right. So let's put from the start.
We can hear it too.
Sound isn't going through. I don't know. All right. Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So that
Yeah.
was Skilla. What can you say about it?
I just have one question.
Yes.
Is it successful as a business?
Maybe I can answer with a picture.
Yes,
Let me
please.
show you something.
Oh,
So that's the French President Macron wearing actually Skilla silk يعني product, and that was actually it's been used actually to promote the platform, the product very much. I see a hand raising, but the name is AMG Computers. Anything you want to say? So yeah, Rahma, the business is very successful actually. Skila is very successful. Now it's interesting to understand how is this business sustainable, because this is our point. I think economically speaking, it's a beautiful product. The price is expensive. It's being sold in Tunisia and beyond. He sells in the US, he sells in Europe, he sells in Latin America. especially after the boost of the American president and the visibility he got with that, the French president, I'm sorry, and the visibility he got with that, got very much promoted. But now, where is the social impact?
Well,
Yeah,
the social impact is very, very huge because they use like Tunisian heritage,
exactly.
also cultural identity, their skills, their manufacturing and everything by hand. So it gives them a great value and also increases the price, also puts the company and Tunisia as a country in a high place on the market, gives them an extra value, and even though they are not in very, let's say, sustainable industry, because everything that has like everything that has with clothes and materials is not very sustainable because there is a lot of leftovers, so it's not very sustainable, but they are trying to bridge that by making everything from scratch by hand. And I think that they also use natural colors, natural dyes, and everything that could help them be like, let's say, more green, more sustainable, more natural, environmental friendly.
Very good, excellent. Did you know them before, or you just come out with this now?
No, actually, I work in sustainability.
Okay, okay, very good, excellent. It's exactly that, actually. Yes, they are selling at a high price, but people love that and they buy it. But as you mentioned, there is a cultural sustainability, a sort of heritage valorization. The region of Mahdiya, where the business is, have been known from centuries
Textile industry.
by the skill production, actually, with very ancestral techniques. So basically, Skila valorizes this art of skill weaving, which dates back to the 15th century or 14th century. And without this entrepreneurial vehicle that is Skila, actually many of the artisans would have left the business, would have even maybe left actually Tunisia or immigrated. So this heritage maintenance or valorization is very important. And not only they made that, but they also created a Skila lab, which actually created a kind of museum inside the Medina of Mahdiya, where they actually showcase these ancestral techniques, tools, and products, and create more intergenerational transmission. So the father now and the family transmit the know-how to their kids because their kids, you know what? They see money into it. So it's also a future. It's not just something gone and done and we don't get back to it because there are revenues generated. Okay? And the nice thing, and this is also a very good innovation that we have in Skila, they have what we call a participative governance or inclusive governance. Have you heard about this before? Like when we say inclusive governance or participative governance.
Yes.
So what does that mean?
Including your employees or partners with you in decision making and in the process in general.
Absolutely, absolutely. So actually, Skila is not just an employer. Actually, the artisans that have been there are shareholders in the company. There is a bonus equity that is distributed on the artisans. So they don't just get a wage at the end of the month, or they just don't just get an income from producing the carpet, but they also participate in the decision making. They participate in the governance. So they see the impact. And that reinforces the social innovation behind the project. So there is the heritage, the valorization, the museum, the transmission between generations, but also there is the inclusive governance that allows for fair trade, which means that every piece is crafted under fair trade principle, money gets back to the local industry standards, and creating a system that actually respect the society and the culture. Okay, so here we touch the circle of social, we touch the circle of economic. Your question have been a little bit skeptical in the eco-friendly production, but as you mentioned, they use local colors, natural colors, manual production, so somehow it's carbon neutral. And so they've touched the environmental circle as well. Okay? Any question or reaction on this example? And by the way, I put this picture because that was a boost for them as well to internationalize their product. Actually, they used a lot in Instagram this to promote what they are doing. Yes. Any question or reaction or comment?
I don't have any question.
All right. Thank you. So there are other examples that I do have here. We don't have much time actually. But all these examples are different, and each one has its own value.
Medicine.
Yes? Of course, I'll be sharing with you the slides afterward. This one is also interesting. It is actually pottery, ancestral pottery mechanism that produced this in a very ancient village in Tunisia. I also show you a video so that you understand what it's about, and then maybe we'll finish with this example. Let me put the sound. Do you hear?
Welcome to Sejnan,
Yes.
the village of potters,
Yes.
where ancestral craftsmanship has been passed down through generations. Here, women continue an art form that is centuries old, working without a potter's wheel, only with their skilled hands. It all begins with clay, sourced locally, washed, and sieved before being carefully shaped. The geometric patterns are reminiscent of Berber tattoos and traditional weavings, giving each piece its unique identity. Once ready, the pottery is fired in traditional kilns, following an eco-friendly and ancient method. In 2018, this unique tradition was inscribed on UNESCO's Intangible Cultural Heritage List, ensuring its preservation and promotion. More than just an art, this pottery is an economic and cultural pillar for the families of Sednani, a craft that now draws visitors and art enthusiasts from all over the world. An art passed down from mother to daughter, and a tradition that continues to shape Senani history to this day.
So this example is similar to Skila case because it's about ancestral techniques and ancestral production. It has social impact, it has environmental impact, and it creates actually revenue and income to these women that without that would have struggled because it was not known, it was not valorized. I can even add one thing, because during the first years of the revolution, there were some tourist attempts to convert the village where these women into a kind of how can I say it, extremist type of village, you know. And one of the things to help the people in the village get out of that is through building a sustainable business, social ecosystem that help them actually being emancipated in terms of social and economic values. And I think it's also a very interesting case. The other example that I have here, but I go fast on them, we can talk about crowdfunding. Anybody heard about the crowdfunding? Or participative funding? It's also a type of when we mobilize financial support from all the neighborhood. So there is common support, there is social value, and there is economic sustainability. There are other models, but again, I'll share with you the slides to explore them, and then of course, be happy to talk to them about them later. Let's dedicate these last 5 minutes more to interaction, okay? To final questions or comments or anything that we want to share to to build up on this session actually about sustainable entrepreneurship. So open Q&A session, open feedback session, open comment session on sustainable entrepreneurship. Yes, Olena?
I just wanted to say thank you
You're
for
welcome.
an interesting lecture. Many things were new to me because I'm not that familiar with like the business sides, and like that side of entrepreneurship. So it was really interesting, but left some notes and like something to look back to and like explore more. And hopefully when you send us the presentation as well, we'll have a look as well. But thank you very much.
Thank you for your feedback, and thank you also for your support. You made the session interactive, so thank you for your questions and comments all along the session.
Thank you.
Yes, Uliana?
I wanna say thank you for your interesting collection and interactive part, because for me it's so important interactive when lecture interactive with auditory.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Thank you for
It was
making it
it
also
was so
interactive.
interesting collection for me. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you. And thank you for comments, actually. It made the session very engaging. And I mean, it has to be that way. Entrepreneurship has to be engaging, it has to be interactive. It's not just lecturing stuff, it's engaging, discussing, challenging the thoughts, challenging the ideas. So thank you for making it happen as well. Anybody else? Comments, reaction, feedback, questions? So, of course, I'll share with you the slides. There is so much to explore in terms of sustainable entrepreneurship, so many inspiring stories. And it's even more inspiring than regular businesses or regular entrepreneurship in a sense that the people that start this, they start from a social intention or an impactful intention. And then converting that into a business, it's even more powerful because it's make it sustainable and goes to many countries. Think about Grameen Bank. It changed the life of millions of people around the world. The microfinance example. Uh, and think about Skila as well. And I mean, it's two stories in one. He started with one thing, it didn't work. He started another thing, and that one worked. And now is very interesting.
That's really inspiring as well.
Yeah,
Do
I mean,
not give
I
up.
agree. I agree. I totally agree with you. It's very inspiring because going from a failure to launch another business that's kind of radically different from the other one. It's not technology anymore. It's actually low tech, we say, ancestral technologies, but also building up on that to make it international, to make it beautiful, to make it visible. That's super powerful. All right. Well, thank you for your time. Thank you for this wonderful session. I really appreciate collaborating with you in this kind of international also session. Being all of us being from many countries, being gathered in the same place to discuss this sustainable entrepreneurship is very powerful because it's also that way we can build sustainable entrepreneurship by putting hand in hand from both sides of the Mediterranean, from many countries together, scaling different businesses. I really believe in that. And I hope we'll have more opportunities to discuss, to collaborate within the Impact Compass program, and see how can we scale up ideas from everywhere and share beautiful ideas as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you too, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening.
Have a good day.
Goodbye. You have my contacts,
Goodbye.
I think, in the somewhere somehow, I guess. But I'll be happy to share if you want to get back to me. I can write it in the chat if you want.
Yes, please.
I write my email in the chat. And be happy to find ways also to collaborate, to think together, or to build something for more impact in this world. Thank you very much, and
Thank
looking
you.
forward to see you again.
Thank you.